I made a massive mistake. But again, I didn't really know what to expect. Man, that's just ridiculous. Studying abroad can be one of the best decisions of your life. However, it can also be one of the most challenging. I am here to talk to you guys today about a few of the big things that I wish I knew before I studied abroad so that you can be more prepared. Starting with number one being understanding and creating your budget. Now, obviously, I knew the importance of, gathering up money so that way I can be prepared for all the endeavors I was about to go through. However, I really didn't know what to expect out of it. Now, budgeting can be different for what you have for your expectations. And so I would say kind of along with that is making sure you know what you're going to be doing. So am I going to be traveling a lot while I'm studying abroad? Am I going to be having to pay for room and board? Am I going to have to be paying for all of my food? So make sure you develop that list so that we can start to put those pieces together on your budget. For me, after multiple times of asking around to friends that I had that had already studied abroad, they gave me a good number, what to expect through the program that I was going through and the location that I was going to, which was Wales. So I knew ahead of time that room and board, all that was covered, and my main expenses were going to come down to food, groceries, that type of thing, as well as any type of personal excursions that I wanted to take. Now, those personal excursions can obviously be broken down into multiple things, such as separate plane flights I was going to have to take, all the restaurants I was going to go eat out at, train rides I was going to have to take, just all those different things, hotels, all of it, that can really mount up if you're not fully prepared for how much those things are going to cost ahead of time. Now, something to kind of go along with the budget, if you don't have that money made up already, you might want to do a little bit of extra work. That was a big thing I did before I took off, was the spring semester, which is the one that I went on from January to May. That whole few months beforehand, I was working like crazy. I was trying to gather up all this money so that way I was sitting in a decent spot, so that way I'm not screaming while I'm over there, because guess what? When you're over there, you ain't working. And some other tips to go along with budgeting and preparing a budget is to make sure you understand the exchange rate of the location that you're going to. So let's say you're going somewhere, like for me it was the UK, and I was spending the pound, the British pound. It was important for me to know this, the conversion rate, because let's say something was 100 pounds. I think at the time in US dollars it would have been about 120 bucks. Now 20 bucks can make a big difference in the long run, especially if you're already on a tight budget. So make sure you're really paying attention to those things and understand the exchange rate. There's a lot of really great apps out there that you can look into. I usually just popped it into Google real quick, researched it and said, okay, this is in my price range, I'm good to go. And this was typically only in the first few weeks that I was there. After you're there for a while, you kind of get that mental math aspect. You know what that conversion rate is going to be, or an approximate zone. And another little side tip that happens to come with creating a budget, just basically money in general, is make sure you tell your bank where you are going and how long you're going for, because if you don't, that can be incredibly stressful. Something that I've also talked in some other videos before. I can link those right up here. But if you don't tell your bank, you end up spending money. Your card is then going to be put on a hold, and then all of a sudden you are in a very, very steep situation with no money to spend. If you're liking the video so far, please leave a like and a comment, and even subscribe while you're at it. It really helps out the channel. Back to it. Tip number 2 is going to be under the idea of packing, and I made a massive mistake when I was packing. I decided to bring way too much with me. I mean, I was only gone for 5 months. I didn't need to bring my whole wardrobe with me. That's just ridiculous. But again, I didn't really know what to expect. I was totally just under the impression that everyone else was going to be doing the same thing as I was. I needed to have all this stuff with me just in case. It was so ridiculous, guys. I looked so dumb walking around, especially in the beginning. That was the biggest aspect where it was probably the most stressful, was when I was trying to get to my accommodation where I was going to be spending the next few months, as well as leaving the country. I had these big, massive suitcases that I'm trying to lug around, and the main place I was lugging around was the stops we made beforehand. I went to London ahead of time, and I'm carrying around these big old suitcases for 3 hours. It was awful. Don't make the same mistake I did. You don't need to bring as much as you think you do. So I'm going to be coming out with a packing video here pretty soon about how to properly pack. But to kind of give you guys a rough idea of what that would look like, it's usually just a few sets of shirts, a few pants, a few shorts, maybe a couple weeks worth of underwear and socks, and that's again kind of the general idea. But that all kind of boils into like a capsule wardrobe. That's the really important part, is making sure that you don't take with you too much and things that can kind of match together with each other. Sorry guys, my cat's right here if you want to see him. Oof. Here's Charlie. He's a troublemaker. Aren't you? Okay. And also with the packing, I really don't think you need to, if you're going to be staying in one spot, don't bring toiletries with you, okay? Like for instance, when I was in Wales, I'm going to be basically there, and that's my central hub for an extended amount of time. So don't occupy so much space with things such as toiletries, because you can just get them while you're over there. Or even with clothes in that case. Like once you get over there, you can buy a couple things. Just make sure, as mentioned before, that you put that into your budget on your way over. The next thing I wish I knew, and this can be maybe specific to certain areas, but I was in Europe, which is a pretty popular study abroad location. I did not realize how easy it was going to be to get around, and this is just honestly a blessing. In the UK, you pretty much can get anywhere by train, and it's only a few hours or less, depending on obviously how far you're going. But it's super, super easy. And even the planes, if you're on a budget, as we mentioned again earlier, Ryanair exists. It's not the it's not the greatest flying experience, but hey, it gets you from point A to point B, and it's super cheap and super easy. Along with that, so many cities over there are super walkable, so you don't have to worry typically too much about getting a taxi or anything like that. I mean, they have public transport, which is really good within the cities. So, I mean, all in all, it is so much easier to get around than it is where I'm currently at, which is the United States. Public transport is awful. Let's just be honest. So you compare that to somewhere like Europe, it's going to be so much easier for you, and it's a much less of a hassle. I'd highly recommend even buying wherever you're going, and I shouldn't say buying, but downloading the apps of their train services. So like if you're going to Italy, it would be Train Italia, or if you're going to somewhere, honestly anywhere in Europe, I like the Trainline app. I use that all the time, whether it be in the UK or if I was in Italy or anything like that. The next thing I wish I knew before I studied abroad was the differences in their education and schooling systems. It was not what I expected, to say the least. I came in there thinking it was going to be this high and tidy, like super proper thing. But it was honestly incredibly relaxed. I don't know if it was the amount of hours that I was taking, credit hours that I was taking, but a lot of my classes I only had like once a week. I had maybe two that were twice a week. And they were usually, most of those days I was done with my classes at like noon. It was honestly, it was awesome. However, something also to take into consideration, now this can be, again, different based on where your location is that you're going to be studying abroad. But I was in the UK. UK English and American English are a bit different, and that came back to haunt me on a couple of papers and projects that I worked on. I was using what I thought was pretty good grammar and pretty proper English from where I'm from, and I thought I did this great job on a few of these things, and I come back, I get my grades, and I did way worse than I thought I did. So I would say, to kind of piggyback off that, is you have those professors, a lot of them are willing to help you, and this is just in general. So go and ask your professors, let them look over your stuff, where you can improve, and really work with them so that way you don't run into the same issues that I did. Because I'll be honest with you, after I got those grades back, I was super stressed out that I was gonna like fail, or that, not that it was a failing grade, but still I was super, super worried. Another thing that I wish I knew before I studied abroad was the new appreciation and the wish that I had to study more cultures. Now, when you're over there, you're really going to be engulfed in a whole different culture than where you are currently. And so look up where you're going. Like for us, when I was in Wales, was the flora and the fauna, the castles, the history with the royal family. Like it's so amazing. And all the people who were working class over there, who worked the slate mines up in northern Wales. Like it's such a rich, rich culture anywhere you're gonna go. And most people don't think of something like Wales that way, but it's honestly stunning. Or let's say you go to somewhere like Spain or Italy, where the dining experiences can be entirely different. Like it is truly an experience when you're dining in those places, where you're gonna be there for 3 hours for dinner, or enjoying tapas in Spain, or aperitivo in Italy. anything like that, look it up because it's going to really help enrich your experience when you're there. Maybe do a little research on the history of those countries and honestly even the differences between some of the cities in those countries. So make sure you look up your exact city or location that you're going because it's going to be maybe entirely different than the other side of the country. Also, researching those cultural differences can really help you in a lot of other situations, such as how to approach even like crossing the street, or how to approach things such as how you're going to greet someone. Like, so like let's say in the UK, you'd ask, "Hey, are you okay?" And that's just their way of saying, "Hey, how are you?" Or if you're going to somewhere like Spain, like the kisses on the side of the cheek. So make sure you look up those things. That way you don't really look like a fool when you're over there, because I mean, I've done it. I've been an idiot sometimes when I'm traveling. So all that research that you would do ahead of time to help give you a good base of what that new culture is going to be like for you, and then you get over there and get to actually experience it, it can really prepare you, and then later on can really help you appreciate that lifestyle compared to the one that you currently live. And then my next tip can honestly be taken from those cultural experiences that you have, and just the overall general travel abroad experience is going to be how much it made me really, really love travel. It has made me so addicted to wanting to go and experience new things and see new things, especially all those different topics you cover in school. And that whole experience with studying abroad probably even started my desire to have this YouTube channel to help teach you guys and show you guys my experiences so that way you can have better ones. It's life-changing. I even find myself a lot of times nowadays just, searching flights like, oh, how much is it to go to Paris for the next 7 days? Or let's say I leave in August. What's that gonna look like? It's so addicting, and now I've even got my wife, Lexi's addicted to it too. But the whole base of that started when I was studying abroad. So when you're over there to wherever you're going, it's going to be such a life-changing experience. I can't really describe it. And even not as much with even going abroad. It made me want to even travel more amongst my country, so that way I can have a greater idea of what the U.S. even is like. I'm from the Midwest, so I don't have as much experience out on the West Coast or out on the East Coast. So going out and just seeing the changes between those things, there's so much world to see, you guys. And me spending my time in Wales really made me realize that. And Wales is such a teeny country, but it is absolutely stunning. And so wherever you're gonna go, it's going to really change you, and it's going to feel like almost a new home for you after that, where you want to go back and show the people that you love what it was like when you were there. And the next tip is going to be how much studying abroad tested me mentally. I'm not kidding you guys. I learned so much about myself when I was studying abroad. So many things that I didn't even really realize on a full scale. Like there's maybe sometimes parts of my personality would show in a mild way, but once I was like really testing myself on the mend, it would be very obvious. So to give you guys kind of an example, I didn't realize, like I thought I had good patience for the most part, but oh man, there was some times of severe impatience that I had when I was studying abroad, and that came to a lot of times a lack of being prepared or lack of understanding. And again, to piggyback off of that, I remember a time when we were in Iceland and we went to go see the Northern Lights. I'm like, oh, cool, the Northern Lights, that sounds great. And it was a cool experience in more ways than one, but oh my gosh, it was absolutely freezing, and the bus was cold, and the wind was 80 miles an hour, and I was just so tired of the situation that my friends like to say I was crying. I don't think I was crying, but I was definitely hating my life at the moment. Another example would be the level of patience you sometimes have to have. I know I mentioned how great the public transport was before, but I expect things at a certain time, or at least I used to back in those times. I have a greater understanding now. But I remember being at a platform in Amsterdam, and I thought the train was going to come and pick us up, and so I was like, oh, okay, sweet, train. So I start walking over towards the edge of the platform, and it was not stopping. I had to quickly jump out of the way because this thing was going about 80 miles an hour. So don't make that mistake. I wish I knew how much I was going to learn about myself, because I did not have as much patience as I thought I did. And even going further off of that, like, you're there essentially by yourself a lot of times. Like, I was very lucky to have friends who are with me as well. But it's just you. Like, you're far away from family, and you're far away from a lot of your friends, and you really have to rely on yourself and develop that independence within you, because that is honestly one of the most amazing things that you can experience while you're studying abroad. The things that you can develop and the person that you become is going to be totally different. I know the study abroad people get a lot of flack because, oh my God, study abroad changed me. That's because it did. Like, it's going to change how you see the world. It's going to want you to implement those things into your own life, whatever it is that you learned while you were studying abroad. So don't let that change you either. Like, when you come back, talk about it, because it is such an awesome experience. In all honesty too, like, that was the first time I really had to rely on myself for buying groceries and making things, because I went to a school where that was usually provided for me at the dining hall. I hadn't done this before, so it was like, okay, I need to develop a grocery list, and what am I going to get? And so, again, kind of on that line of developing some independence. And another part where I really tested myself, and I wish I would have done different, is I was honestly kind of scared of meeting new people. I'm a pretty introverted person, and I lived in a flat with 7 other people. 2 of them didn't speak much English. They were from different countries, but most of the people in my flat were from the UK, and I was honestly so, like, petrified for most of the time, and I didn't spend as much time with my flat as I probably should have. I spent a lot of time in some other flats with my other friends because I was comfortable, because they were there. But I wish I would have done that a little bit different, because it would have allowed me to really understand things even to a greater scale than I had already started to develop. But yeah, that's definitely a big regret. So, and that can be even further into another tip of making sure you understand your living space. Like I said, I was going into a space where I was living with 7 other people. I know of some other people that went and were in Spain, and they would stay with a host family. Oh, those 2 experiences can be honestly entirely different. I'm living with people who are my age, and so I had a friend who was staying with a host family, and it was super stressful for her, just because that person probably shouldn't have been a host mom. And so basically, don't let those people necessarily, like, if you have a negative experience with that, don't let them impact your overall impression of your study abroad experience, because there's so many other amazing things that, even if you are having troubles with, let's say it's a host family, or let's say it's a flat that you're staying with other people, let your people with your study abroad program know, like your directors, and maybe they can even line it up. Like, I know for my friend, they were able to find her a different house to stay in, a different host family, and that completely changed the experience for her. Alright, you guys, so those are all of my things that I wish I knew before I studied abroad. There are so many other topics that could be covered when it comes to studying abroad, so if you want to see more of those, then please just leave a comment below, and I can maybe make a video for you guys, and I'll comment back to you as well. And if you did make it to the end of this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel, helps more people see what I'm trying to give out to you guys, especially for topics to help you on your travels. And speaking of travels, if you are watching this video, more than likely you are studying abroad or about to study abroad. So please just have an amazing time. It's going to change your life, as I mentioned in this video. So just enjoy every second of it, because it'll be done before you know it. Thank you all so much for watching the video, and have a great rest of your day.